Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is my pleasure to join the discussion on 2SLGBTQI plus rights as raised in the last federal budget. I want to take this opportunity to address a very specific policy here in the Senate, which is the recent decision by the Long-Term Vision and Plan Working Group to have gender-neutral washrooms in the new and renovated Senate buildings. While surprisingly there has been some resistance, I'm pleased to observe that the mainstream of the discussion was squarely based in the year 2023 and not in 1923. Je veux être clair, plus clair possible, dans cette...
I want to state as clearly as I can on the floor of the Senate and as a senator that I endorse gender-neutral washrooms that will accommodate transgender Canadians and gender non-binary Canadians.
The Senate, and as a senator, that I endorse the gender-neutral washrooms that will accommodate transgender Canadians and gender non-binary Canadians, the common word being Canadians. And as a bonus, as with most forms of accommodation, many other Canadians will benefit from and appreciate the measure. I speak of this as if it were the brand new invention of the private washrooms. Here's the thing. While accommodation is always a good thing for the reasons of human rights and respect, it almost always benefits other people beyond those who need it most. Let me give you two examples. Back some 30 or 40 years ago, when buildings and sidewalks were being built to be more accessible to people in wheelchairs and those with mobility challenges, I became acutely aware that these measures were of great assistance to parents with young children. While I stayed home to raise my kids for a few years when they were little, there were countless times when those facilities made it possible for me as I lugged around two little kids in a stroller. Facilities for people with disabilities greatly assisted all parents and caregivers of young children who are much larger in number than those using wheelchairs. And by the way, we are still not at 100% in terms of accessibility. Deuxième exemple, lorsque j'étais au CRTC.
Second example, when I was at the CRTC, one of the issues we worked on was captioning, closed captioning on television for the deaf and hard of hearing.
Today, subtitling on television remains a very successful program which pays for itself through advertising and sponsorship, and it is widely used for the benefit of all who are patrons to bars, pubs, and restaurants, as well as gyms and health centers. So, colleagues, the next time you find yourself reading subtitles on a TV screen at an airport, remember to thank the pioneers of this service, your fellow Canadians who are deaf and hard of hearing. I will suggest that washrooms that accommodate others, in quotes, was probably a raging debate in this Parliament a century ago, 2 years after the first woman was elected to the House of Commons and 7 years before the first woman was appointed to the Senate. The debate for an appropriate number of washrooms for women has been going on in the decades since, but I can just imagine the male fragility that yelled and hollered about having to give up their washrooms for their female colleagues who they probably didn't believe belonged in Parliament to begin with. And here we are, 100 years later, and at last we have a solution. It takes us a while, but we can get it done. I want to congratulate Senator Tanis and the LTVP Committee, and Senator Monsian and SEBA, and all other senators who have approached this with openness and respect. One last point on minority rights, and this is my plea to all parliamentarians. Let me paraphrase what President Biden said a few days ago about hate. There is some deep hate in our society at all times, and it is just under the surface, and just needs oxygen to give it life. In our debates as parliamentarians, let us be careful not to give oxygen to the darker forces in our society. I understand that we are often dealing with issues that are new to some, complicated or threatening. As parliamentarians, perhaps we can do our best when discussing complex and emotional issues to be careful not to feed the darker forces in our society, even if it could bring some of us short-term political benefit. To those who don't like the idea of a gender-neutral washroom, I say, come on, join us. Let's be respectful, welcoming to all, be they parliamentarians, staff, or visitors. Parliament is the home of all Canadians, not just some Canadians. Trust me, you're going to like the private washrooms. Thank you, Madam Speaker.